All right. What's up, everybody? We are live. We're live, and it's been a couple weeks. It's been a couple weeks since we've talked Detroit Pistons basketball. And that's kind of what I wanted to do right here. I wanted to gauge interest level, gauge like kind of what are you doing in the NBA offseason? I think when we look at big things, when we talk about the NBA, we're looking at Kevin Durant and just the Kevin Durant saga that's going on and all of that kind of stuff. We've had our share of Detroit Pistons rumors. We've had the switch over to the teal jerseys, which I think most people, well, based on some polls, about 70 to 80% of people are really excited about. We've had talks about Draymond Green talking positively about wanting to go back to the Pistons if you were to go somewhere. Like if you wanted to go somewhere, it would be to Detroit. I think he's going to stay with the Warriors, and even him coming back, like how that flexes with this team. Like we don't want to talk about that necessarily, but we've had some things going on, but we are in the dead of the NBA offseason. But it's been, honest to goodness, it's been a couple weeks since we did a video. So I just wanted to hop on here. Didn't know if you guys had any questions that you might have about the Detroit Pistons. If you do, start throwing those down on the comments. Would love to just kind of see what questions you have, how we can answer it as people slowly but surely begin to hop on here, and we can just talk a little bit of Pistons basketball. I mean, the questions can vary from anything like, how many minutes do you expect Jaden Ivey to play, to what are you most excited for? And I'm posing questions to you guys too. What are you most excited for with the Detroit Pistons this season? What are you most looking forward to? What is your biggest concern with the Pistons team this season? What's their best position of strength? What's their best position of weakness? Is there a rookie that we should be looking out for? Is there, what are they going to do now that they already have 15, possibly 16 guys on the roster? Just different things like that you can be throwing out that you're like, you know what, I've been kind of pondering this. And, basketball's kind of been in the back of my mind, but I also would love to know what's going on. Like maybe that's where your head's at with the Pistons right now. So here's kind of, I'll give you a little dissertation on where I'm at with the Pistons in this moment. And and hopefully a couple questions come in, and if they don't, that's all right. I understand it's August and it's hard to talk Detroit basketball, but here's kind of some of the things that I've been hearing. Couple of different guys. You hear about Cade Cunningham working out in the offseason with some of the top players in the league. This isn't something that's necessarily new to him, but really, really good to see. You hear stories about how Bagley is working out like a madman. Same with Kevin Knox, and just guys that want to prove that they have a spot to have on this team. I think what I'm most looking forward to this year is, what does the development look like? Isaiah Stewart, what does his year 2 to year 3 jump look like? Isaiah Livers, what does his year 1 to year 2 jump look like? And I think this is when we are going to be able to start saying, okay, Dwayne Casey, are you doing things the right way when it comes to coaching this team? Are you doing it the right way? Because if guys like Isaiah Stewart aren't taking a jump, if Sadiq Bey doesn't take another jump, if Cade Cunningham doesn't take a big jump, if Ivy really struggles, these are the kind of things where you start having to say, okay, I think we all feel like there's a good level of talent here. We feel like Troy Weaver is really starting to do his job. He's always done his job. But this talent, this young talent, you have your core of the first year from the draft of Killian, Sadiq, and Isaiah. How good are they year 3? You have guys like Cade Cunningham, how good, and Isaiah Livers, how good are they year 2? And then you have the rookies. So I think we can start actually judging based on improvement. I think Sadiq Bey had really good improvement from year 1 to year 2. I think he had really good improvement from year 1 to year 2. Killian Hayes, like maybe like he started to show improvement, but he's just been so hurt. He's been so hurt. And then, Isaiah Stewart almost had the exact same second year as he did his rookie season, right? Like at first it was good. He started off pretty strong, but then you realize the weaknesses. And then all of a sudden toward the back end of the year, he's shooting 3-pointers. So like, can they start the year where they ended last year and ahead of that? Or is there a little bit of regression? Kind of what does that look like? What are those things? What do those things look like? So those are kind of some of the big questions that I have in the offseason. But what are the other things that you guys have? Do we want to talk about the teals? Do we want to talk about teal uniforms? And just waiting on you guys to comment. I see people watching, so you may as well start hitting the comments as well. Where are you at with the teals? Is there a breakout player that you like that you want to make an argument for that I can either agree or disagree with? I mean, like, just what are you most excited to see? Do you think there's going to be another pickup on this team? Do you think that we're done signing players? Do you think this roster is pretty set as is? And just different things like that. I think other questions that I would have for everybody is like, well, poop jar. That's yeah. I mean, like, that's a great comment. That's really helpful. So, hey, you wanna get on there? Here you go. There you go. There's your comment. That's super helpful. Not a great question though. So, like, I will say, like, there are certain things that I think we can be looking forward to. So let's just talk calendar of the NBA offseason a little bit. The Pistons, I want to say their first game is somewhere right around like October 19th. Yes, it's Wednesday, October 19th. And that's something that we can do right now is while you guys are kind of gathering on here, we had a schedule release, and NBA schedule releases are about as boring as any schedule release. I mean it. It is like the most boring thing. And here's the thing. Guess what? Schedule release came out. Pistons are playing 82 games and they're playing every team at least twice. Like, you know who you're going to play. And you know what that's going to look like. What you don't know with a schedule release is when you are going to play them. So, what I look at with a young team like our team is how is our schedule front end and back end loaded? The Pistons have shown that that in the back half of the season that they were a much improved team. So the question is, do we have a soft enough schedule in the beginning, like the month of October and November, as our team really gets their feet under them to be okay? And when you look at this, we start at home against Orlando, very winnable game. Then we're going to New York, to Indiana, to Washington. We got Atlanta back to back, Golden State, and Milwaukee. Not a super easy October, if you ask me. Like, I think those first four games are all winnable, but three of them are on the road. Then you have Atlanta, both at home, back to back. That's always tricky. Usually you get one of those two there. And then you have Golden State, where you're Golden State at home, and then you're at Milwaukee the very next night, and then you're at Milwaukee again 2 nights later. I mean, like, then you go Cleveland, Oklahoma City, that can be a W. So I like when you look at this lineup though, it's not easy. At Boston, at New York, Boston again, Toronto, Clippers, Lakers, Sacramento, Denver, Utah, Phoenix, Cleveland, New York. You're talking all borderline or actual like playoff caliber teams, borderline or playoff caliber teams. So I think, like, when you look at this, it's like, okay, the schedule, it doesn't. So I would expect us to get out of the gates really slow. And then when you get kind of into the back half of the schedule and you're looking at that January, even February area, it kind of gets a little more favorable, to be honest. You get into March and you look at this schedule in March and you're like, oh, that's much more favorable. Chicago, then Cleveland. Okay, yeah, sure. But then Portland, Charlotte, Indiana twice, Washington. Like, you know what it's going to look like, everybody. Like, this is just what I'm talking about. Like, it's an NBA schedule. And that's why you don't have this big crazy thing like you do like you think you do in the NFL. So, all right, we got some questions that are starting to come in. First one's actually a statement. And he said, I think we're done making moves. Totally get it. Actually, kind of agree. So, like, I'm with you on that. I think we're done making moves as well. I think that an injury might necessitate a move at some point or something like that. But otherwise, like, yeah, I think our roster is pretty well set. I wouldn't count out bringing in another like veteran wing or shooter or something like that. Again, there's a couple positions where it's like, oh, we're pretty thin. We're pretty thin if there's an injury. So I like to look at that. Another question here, and I want to sit on this one just for a second. How much do you think Jaden Ivey will average? This is a great question. So a really good average for a rookie is about 15 points a game, right? I think you looked at a couple guys that kind of hit that 20 ceiling. Cade was right around there. And you start looking at stuff like that. And it's like, okay, but 15, here's what I'm going to go with Ivy. I think that they are going to rely on him to play 28 to 34 minutes a night. I think he's going to get good run. And I think we're just going to learn with him as he goes. So I wouldn't think it'd be crazy to see him put up about 15, 16 points a game. And I think there'll be some nights where he goes off and other nights where you're just like, dude can't shoot a three. And so, but then other nights where he gets red hot. I think he's going to be that player where he's kind of streaky and then he kind of moves off of that. So that's what I'm kind of expecting from Ivy, is a guy who's really, really streaky. And then toward the back half of the season starts figuring it out. And the reason I think he figures it out this year is even in summer league, he figured it out after one half. Like he was pressing and he was getting used to the speed of the game. And then all of a sudden after one half, it's like he realized, oh, I'm still faster than everyone. I don't have to speed up my game. I can still play my game at its normal speed, and I'm still faster than everybody else. And so, like, he didn't have to go nuts. And I don't think it's going to take him that long in the regular season to get used to it. He will get to the foul line, which is a really good compliment for Cade Cunningham, who is not getting to the line as much. And I think having a guy like Cade and a guy like Killian, to be honest with you, playing next to him is really, really helpful because it's not going to force him to do too much with the ball. It'll allow the game kind of to come to him, which is really, really exciting. I am so excited about Jaden Ivey. And I got to tell you, I'm not a big fan of spending a ton of money on jerseys, but that 23 in teal, I put that on the thumbnail for this video because that is such a beautiful jersey. The 23 in teal is just awesome. All right, Beasley. He says, my biggest worry is that we won't have enough playing time for everyone, even if the Pistons get rid of a player or two before the season starts. Completely agree. Like, how do you get playing time for Magruder and Joseph? Because you want these guys to play a little bit. Okay, I want to rephrase that. You just want the young guys to play, but Dwayne Casey is going to play the veterans a little bit too. So where do all the minutes come for Killian, Ivy, and Cunningham? Do you play Cade, and Ivy all at the same time? Dwayne Casey already addressed that and said, like, yes, all three can play together. And if that is the truth, then that takes care of some of the log jam at minutes, but then you just move it up to the 3 spot. And I think the guys we want to see minutes for are guys like Stewart. I think we want to see Jalen Duren and see what kind of minutes he gets. You want to see Ivy, you want to see Livers, you want to see Cade. I think most people still want to see Killian to see what he can do in extended run. And you have a lot of these guys where it's just like, wow, who's going to separate themselves? And I agree with you. When I look at this roster, I see stuff like that. And then we have another question right here. Beasley, same guy, right? Another question. It's almost like a follow-up question because Jalen Duren is one of those guys that I worry, like, how many minutes is he going to get? Like, what's that going to look like for him? I just don't see in the current lineup where it's like, all right, you have Stewart, you have Nerlens Noel, you have Kelly Olynyk, like you have Marvin Bagley, and then Duren. When does he play? And because what is based on how raw he is, how young he is, that you probably will get more quality minutes from Noel, right? As much as I hate to admit that, early on in his career, I don't think forever, but like you'll probably get more quality minutes from him. I think any of those guys you could argue will play more quality minutes at the 5, and Jalen Duren is going to be more of a project. So the question is, does he go to the G League? Would that be really weird for a guy that was the 11th or 12th pick to be in the G League? It's not unheard of, but I think that Detroit fans would get a little antsy because they're like, hey, we know what this is. This is a rebuild. This is a restore. And I don't think Pistons fans are upset. Tell me if I'm wrong. You guys are throwing the comments down. Do you expect the Pistons to be a fringe playoff team this year? Or do you expect us to be in the lottery again? Also, if we go in the lottery again, we get our first round pick again. So like, I think like it's one of those things. My expectation for this team is still that they're a lottery team. So why not play the young guys? Why not do it? Why not get them better unless you're rushing them along too fast? It says we still have Kemba. I think you meant Kemba Walker there. I've heard weird different reports like that. One that we bought him out, one that we didn't. Like, it's been kind of all over the place on that. I just don't know if I foresee him getting yeah. Okay. Next one that's popping in here. I hope Killian can score better than at least 11 a game. That would excite you. Same. Especially when he has two scorers next to him with Cade and with Jaden Ivey, especially now. I think there's a lot of guys that can score the ball on this team. I think Olynyk is obviously a primarily offensive guy. Marvin Bagley is a primarily offensive guy. Trust me, I don't think Kelly is our best scorer. I just started from the 5 and started working my way down. I think Livers can score the ball. I think that Cade obviously can score the ball. Jaden Ivey is a walking bucket. Like, he can just get to the hoop. And so, like, he's a bucket. He's gonna be a bucket getter. So Killian, if he's throwing down 11 a game, that's probably paired. If he's getting 28 minutes a game, 30 minutes a game, that's probably going to be paired with 7 or 8 assists. And like, that's nice. Like, that's kind of what you want when you have a lot of talent around him. Like, that's what you want to see. So I think you're right. I think you're right. 11 a game would excite me. I would love to see him creep up in that 13 range. And then you have Cade over 20, Ivy in between 15 and 20, and kind of go from there. So, yeah. And I see Demigod, like, dude, you're throwing the comments down. I appreciate it so much better than your first comment. But like, you think we're a playing team? Who's with him? Like, who's with them? Like, are we a playing team? Do you expect us to make the playoffs outright, or are we a lottery team? I still sit on there's a lot of young talent. I still think we're a lottery team, but I really get your understanding. Like, I can understand the playing team argument. And the reason I can understand the playing team argument is because I think Cade is that dude. And I think he really is that guy. And I think, as Pistons fans and as Troy Weaver and as Dwayne Casey, if we're not a playing team this year, we're a perennial playoff team after this, as long as we have Cade. And if Jaden Ivey is anything close to what we're hoping he's going to be, right? If he's anything close to that, then all of a sudden you have something special here in the backcourt. And so I completely understand what you're saying with that, because I think Cade is just absolutely good enough. So, okay, Jeb, you're going with playing team as well. And like, hey, this is our Lions phrase on this channel all the time. Like, you guys got the hopium going. Like, we're a playing team. Do you want to be? Like, I think that's always my question too. Do you want to be a playing team? Especially, all right, 3 scenarios. Obviously, you'd like to be the playing team that gets the 7 or 8 seed. Duh. Would you rather be a playing team that loses, or just be in the lottery? What would you rather? I mean, if you're a playing team that loses, you end up in the lottery anyway. So I guess that's good. But would you rather be a playing team that loses, but hey, we got to the play-in tournament, we played a couple games, it was a lot of fun, we had a few laughs, right? Or do you want to be that team that makes the 7 or 8 seed and then just gets dominated in the first round because you're not ready, but you get that good experience, but then we lose our draft pick? That's my question for a lot of people out there, is like, what would you rather be? Would you rather be that playoff team right now, or kind of go from there? Yeah. So, hey, that's great. I'm glad Euro basketball is great. Like, that's great. I have not been to a EuroLeague basketball game, so there you go. You want to win? Okay, love it. Totally get it. I want to win too. I really, really do. And as we're starting, as you know, on this channel, we're Lions, we're Pistons. And as the Lions are going, like, I want to win. I'm not worried about an early draft pick next year and stuff like that. I want to win now. And I think the other side of this is that Troy Weaver has already shown that he can find really good players later or mid first round. So, like, I get it. Make the playoffs. Even if you're not winning the playoff series, like, you got in the playoffs, and this is a team that's only going to get better and get more hungry when they get there, almost, but not quite over the hump. So I get exactly what you're saying. And then Jeb, you agreed with yourself and you agreed with me when you said that experience goes a long way. I do. I think you're right. I think it does go a long way, especially if we can pull out a game or two and we make it like a 6-game series. Like, I feel like that's really, really there. Okay. All right. This is an interesting one. This is really interesting to me. I feel our core is already set. We don't need any more prospects, just vets. Where's everybody else on that one? I think if Jalen Duren ends up being what we hope he is, and Jaden Ivey ends up being a 20-plus point a game guy, we have our core. I think we're all set. I think you're right. Especially if Sadiq can become that third scoring option. But what if they don't pan out to what we hope them to be? Because I think we have our core assuming that, because we all like these draft picks. Like, we really liked him. And I think we thought Jalen Duren, worst case scenario, dude is a walking rebound and block shot. Like, and the dude's going to do that at a high level for the next 8 to 10 years. And I think that's what everybody thinks about him. At least 8 to 10 years. Like, worst case scenario, he ends up being Andre Drummond. I know I hate to say that, but like, worst case scenario. And oh man, don't blast me on that, because I think he's going to be better than Drummond, because he won't demand the ball all the time with those shots, and you won't need to just throw it to him over and over and over again in the post to have him miss. And anyways, sorry, there were some dog days of Pistons basketball early on in Drummond's career, but like, I think we are almost there, but here's what I also know. There's going to be the cap room to go out and get a higher quality player. Do we use that cap room to make a trade for a better player? Because I think our core is set, but it could be a better core. So as much as I like doing that, I also know my tendency as a fan, and just the way I approach sports, is to be very cautious with it. Troy Weaver is not that. So any opportunity he sees, even if it's bringing in a guy that's going to take the lead, like, I don't think he's going to let that go, because he doesn't want to do those things. Okay, Beasley, I would rather a play-in. A lottery pick is great, but it's never a guarantee. Play-in means that the team is improving. Okay. As we put all these comments together, as we're reading this, we just said that a demigod said he felt that the core is already set. We don't need any more prospects. Beasley Arrow is saying I'd rather play-in. I think if you make the plan, and especially if you win and you get into the playoffs, then the argument is, oh yeah, the core is already here, because we're already having really good success with a really young team. But I think we also have to remember how hard it is to win when you're really young. I look at teams that won when they were young and probably started the curve early. Remember the Boston Celtics? Remember when they pushed the Cavs to 7 games, even after Kyrie was hurt, and they basically had Tatum and Brown as just youngsters, and they were playing really, really well with the Cavs. And then all of a sudden, it's like they didn't get over the hump for like 3 or 4 years, even 5 years it might have been. And then boom, this year they make it to the finals. It takes time to get to the mountaintop, which would go to the argument even faster of let's get to the playing game and let's start getting that experience, because you're right. It takes time. I look at teams like the Timberwolves. They've had talent. Now, that you can make an argument of there wasn't talent put together correctly, but they finally started putting that young talent together this year. But they have a mix of ages on that team. It's hard to win consistently when you're really, really young. So let's do that. Okay. Quinn, great. Playing team that loses, since we have all the money for offseason moves. And we do. Like, so you get the plan, you get a lottery pick, you keep your pick, and you use the money and you go for it the next year. So 22-23, like, hey, that's nice. You guys did good. You probably, if we make the play-in tournament, that's a little bit of an overachievement, I think, for how young this team is. And then boom, you spend some of that money. Way more athletic than Duren is. Okay, like, I hear you on that. I think he's way more built. I think Drummond never looked quite as fit. I think he's more committed to his body. I think he's more committed to the game. And I can see what you're saying with the athleticism. I do get it. Describe what you mean by athleticism, though, because like Drummond could do some things. I just hope Duran has better shot blocking timing, and I hope he actually just has a better motor. Because I think Drummond, his biggest issue his first well, his entire career was just his motor. And it's kind of do that. Okay, Jeb. Sadiq Bey is going to surprise people. Beef stew, unfortunately, may be trade bait with Killian. Where are you going with that? Like, are you saying like maybe we trade off those young pieces for the next big part of our core, a big piece of our core? Like, is that what you're saying? Like, we're trading some of these young guys because we want to get a better player that puts us in a position to win now because maybe Jaden Ivey is progressing faster than you thought. Cade Cunningham is ready to win right now. And Sadiq Bey is at that point where he's ready to win now too. That's a situation where I could see that. When you say Bey is going to surprise people, Sadiq Bey surprised me. Like Sadiq Bey. Okay, so thank you for the confirmation. That's exactly it. Good stuff. So like I could foresee that happening. Where you're trading it away to get better right now. Totally understand that. Especially if you want to go for the plan, but realize your young guys are going to continue to get better. I think my point is Troy Weaver has been extremely patient in the restore, right? To this point. And what we've said over and over again on this channel is know when to strike when the iron's hot. Go for it when you can go for it, but don't try and speed up the process. Don't try and speed up the restore. And so you have to be confident that Killian Hayes and Beef Stew are not a piece of the core going forward in order to let them go. But if you think they're part of the core, keep them. But it's the NBA. And anytime you have the opportunity, especially in Detroit, to get premier talent, like premium talent, all-star caliber talent via trade, you do it. Because as much as I like what Quinn is saying right here, our next really good player will come from free agency. How often has that happened for the Detroit Pistons? We're not the big market free agent destination. That is reserved for the LAs, for the New Yorks, for the Miamis. Dallas tries to be a player in it. Phoenix tries to be a player in it, and sometimes it works. Hello, Chris Paul. Right? Like, so you look at these things. Those are the places that attract free agents. You know, Brooklyn, the Knicks, the Clips, the Lakers, even the Warriors to an extent because of all their success. The Miami Heat. Like these are the teams that the Pistons are not a team that has traditionally done that. And when we have money and we go spend, which we will have to pay the small market tax, which I mean, we'll have to pay them more money to get a good player. It has not traditionally gone that well for us. Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the big moves that I'm thinking about that we did in free agency where we're spending big money, you're talking about Ben Gordon. You're talking about Charlie Villanueva. You're talking about Josh Smith. Like these guys that we handed out big money to. And it's like, okay, that's rough. that is rough. And a lot of our best players, even when we had moderate success, I'm talking those teams that were always fighting for the 8th seed, the best players we acquired then, Tobias Harris, Reggie Jackson, Blake Griffin, how do we get them? It was via trade. I think sometimes we just have to realize the reality that we're living in by being Pistons. We build this team through trades. We build this team through the draft. Your star players come via draft and trades. And then you use that extra free agency when you have, if you have it, to get the correct pieces to build around them. Fringe, like not bad players, not poor quality. Sometimes they're high quality starters, just not all-star caliber. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying either, Quinn. I'm just kind of continuing to talk here. So it is good to see more people hopping on. Numbers are looking better. We got more people watching with us now. So I'll keep talking for just a little bit longer because it's good to see you guys. It's good to talk Pistons basketball. Like, man, and here's the weird thing. It is August 23rd. Sorry, the minute hands over the date. Yeah, August 23rd. It's August 23rd. Think about it. We're not even 2 months away from the beginning of the regular season. How quick is that? How quick is that? And you guys got football to hold you over till then. So enjoy, get some preseason basketball, watch some of that, like hang out. Who watches preseason basketball? I do. I admit. I love watching it. And it's just like the NBA. It's like the arena feed. So it's just like usually there's no announcing. Like there's a couple games that the guys from Bally will do, but there's no announcing. It's just the arena feed and you're just watching basketball. And it's just like, this is awesome. Like, I actually enjoy it. All right. Who do you think the starting front court should be? I've heard lots of different opinions. Bay, Stu, Noel. For me, assuming Stu can stretch the floor. Here's what I think. If everybody is healthy, you have a couple of different options. It's clear that they want to see if Beef Stew is going to work at the 4. And if Stewart is going to work at the 4, I think you try and keep him in the starting lineup at the 4. So you put him and Nerlens Noel. That's kind of how I would roll with it, or even him and Bagley. I know that sounds weird, but I have an explanation for that. In the front court, and then in the second unit, you're going Livers. You have maybe Kelly Olynyk, but also like I like Stewart with Olynyk because he provides that defensive force. Like if you need a big guy to guard the 5 to have a little bit of rim protection, kind of go from there. There's a big name I didn't say, Jalen Duren, and I just don't know if in the beginning of the season he's there or he is going to be ready yet. Now, Nerlens Noel, we never wish this on anyone, has had a ton of injury history. So I think that naturally Jalen Duren, as he's starting to get comfortable, as he's developing, it will be around the time that Nerlens Noel is either traded at the trade deadline, Kelly Olynyk is traded at the trade deadline, or there's an injury that happens to one of them and he comes in. I think he's an injury away from getting 15, 20 minutes a night. But until then, I'm not sure what that looks like. Yeah. Okay. I love this next comment that's coming up. Never had a foundation like this in the trade era. The free agent that fits here will already want to come. Okay. Why did Chris Paul go to Phoenix? I think I'm backing up your point here, Gerald. Why did Chris Paul? By the way, nice icon, Bad Boys. Hey, Detroit Bad Boys, let's go. I think a big reason, we know why. Like he was very open about it. He thought Devin Booker was the truth, and you already have guys talking about Cade Cunningham about how he's the truth. Kevin Durant has been outspoken. Other players, I think it was Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, was like, this dude's going to be a problem in the league. Like he's going to cause a lot of people a lot of problems. You have bona fide stars talking already in his rookie year about how good Cade Cunningham is. If this team this season starts to prove that young talent's good, if Jaden Ivey is playing well, if Cade Cunningham is playing well, even if Killian starts to play a little bit, you're right. That is going to make a free agent that normally would be like Detroit say, Detroit? Maybe, and I think that's why you already have guys like Draymond Green that are looking and being like, hey, when I'm done in Golden State, the only other team I'd ever want to play for is Detroit. The reason he's saying that isn't just because it's Detroit, it's home. That's a huge part of it, but it's also because he likes the foundation. He believes in what they're building here. And I think other players are going to do the same, but you have to understand a lot of teams are doing similar things. So I do get where you're coming from in that. And I've thought about it too. And I've had that hope often. But I was thinking about this. I was thinking about the going to work Pistons era. And I couldn't comment on all the free agent signings that we had with the other one. And I know in the going to work Pistons era, you got to say it a little bit different because a lot of times we were at that salary cap. But I can think of those fringe players that are either really good starters or great sixth man. I can think of guys like that we brought in during that era. I mean, like Antonio McDyess, kind of on the tail end of his career. Chris Webber at the very tail end of his career. I can think of guys like that But otherwise, it was bringing dudes in via trade still. Rasheed Wallace, we brought in via trade to really complete that roster. As the team was starting to get older, Allen Iverson. We don't need to talk about that right now. But like just thinking about stuff like that, when the team was good in the past, we still weren't attracting huge free agents. There were other players we would try and get in trades that would say no. I remember there was the big rumors about Kobe Bryant and things like that. So I just like I get what you guys are saying, but still remember we are Detroit. By the way, Iverson, LOL. It's exactly right. Do I see Cade as a future MVP? I think it'd be hard for him to be an MVP. I'm going to just be completely honest with you. I see him as a better version of Devin Booker, to be honest. But MVP, things would have to roll his way. He does not have the dominant body type where he can just be an MVP player super easily. It has to be a unique circumstance. Jason Tatum this year had a great year. I like Jason Tatum as the comparison, but here's one thing. They're different. Jason Tatum is more of a scorer. He's a couple inches taller. Cade Cunningham is going to initiate the offense. He's going to pass the ball as much as he is a scorer. He's a more well-rounded Jason Tatum, I think. But I think it's going to be hard for him to be an MVP. I think you have guys like Luka that are just going to be doing ridiculous things and continue to do ridiculous things. And the MVPs traditionally have just been guys that it's like, what happened? You know, I mean, we had James Harden in there, but like LeBron James, just like that physically dominant. You got guys like Kevin Durant that win the MVP, you know, just guys that they have things you can't defend. And Cade started to show that he had some things that people couldn't defend to. I will give you that. The mid-range game and different things like that. As he continues to develop, I'd be very interested to see. But with his athletic ability and things like that, I don't know if an MVP is like a super reasonable expectation. But do I think he'll be a guy that's consistently in the top 5 voting for MVP? Yeah, I really do. I think he's that good. I think he's a dude. And, you know, with that, you never know how things are going to roll. It could be one of those times where like, yep, it's his turn. I mean, Steve Nash was an MVP, so I guess you don't have to be that physically dominant. It's just the kind of the way things go. Okay. Okay. We need to bring back those white Pistons jersey with the lightning bolt on them. The red lightning bolt. I remember that. Yeah. No. I'm good. I'm so good. I'm so good on that. All right. You're crazy on that one. Cade will be in the GOAT conversation when he's done. Oh my goodness. I hope you're right. Oh, I hope I can eat crow on that. And I'm not saying that Cade's not going to be great. I think he is. I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic. The GOAT is rarefied air. And when you look at people who are in the GOAT conversation, it was a little different makeup. So let's just see what that looks like. Cade will definitely be in the MVP conversation. We win chip, he wins MVP. Again, I'm with you. Hope you're right. So, yeah. Hey, this was fun, guys. Thanks for hanging out. We're closing on 40 minutes. We'll do this again. We got 2 months till the beginning of the season. Really, stuff starts to kick off, and we get to hear how people are playing. That all happens in October, so we're only a little over a month away from that. But really good, just kind of doing this live session, talking with you guys. Appreciate you starting to get the flow going. It took a minute, but then a lot of the comments started coming in. So don't forget, hey, Sports Talk Detroit. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, if you're watching now, hit the subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. And just kind of appreciate talking to you guys. Jeb, I feel like we had a one-on-one conversation. Gerald, we had a one-on-one conversation. Demigod earlier, Beastly Arrow, like you guys were awesome. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and just a guy who loves to talk sports, and we're doing it on YouTube. So don't forget all your Lions content, all your Pistons content. We want to be your place for that. Feel free to always email questions to us, sportstalkdetroit@gmail.com. And or we love your comments. Always throw them in there, and we'll kind of go from there. But appreciate all of you, and we'll see you on the next one.